Thank you for joining us at XM.com. This is a special report. We'll be having a look at the Delta variant, whether it's wrecking hopes of an end to the lockdowns. I'm Christina Marujos. Joining me today is lead investment analyst Rafi Boyajian. The vaccines, Rafi, were seen by many as the beginning of the end to this pandemic. However, the new Delta variant appears to be pouring cold water on that optimistic sentiment. Many areas, especially in Asia, are back in a lockdown, and we're seeing a surge in new virus cases. Therefore, is it sensible to assume that the vaccines have broken the link between infections and hospitalizations, or is this just wishful thinking?
Well, Christina, we certainly do have evidence that vaccines do indeed reduce serious illnesses. But the problem is that most countries in Asia and in the Asia-Pacific regions, such as Australia and Japan, vaccine rollouts are lagging Europe and America. So lockdown is their only option, which, of course, is highly damaging to their economies. But even in highly vaccinated countries, there is a question mark of how effective are vaccines when you have an extremely contagious strain such as the Delta variant, which can spread very quickly, and therefore hospital admissions might begin to rise at some point. However, as far as markets are concerned, we've only seen a few jitters in Asian markets, and investors seem to be hopeful that even if new strains do emerge and spread rapidly, vaccines won't derail reopening plans. And, when we look at risk assets and how they've been behaving throughout this pandemic, stocks, for example, might still benefit because it would just simply mean more stimulus.
However, the peculiar thing is that it appears there is no direct correlation between a surge in virus cases and currencies. For example, Australia is back in a lockdown, and yet the Aussie is practically unscathed. Which currencies do you think could be affected the most by this new Delta variant?
So the Aussie is indeed an interesting case study because Australia is very vulnerable to a new dangerous COVID spread given its low vaccination rate. But Australia has always acted quickly to contain any fresh virus outbreaks, and there's already signs that the snap lockdowns that it quickly introduced are working in containing the Delta variant. So investors aren't worried that prolonged lockdowns will be necessary in Australia, and even the RBA isn't too concerned at this point. However, other currencies are more at risk. In particular, the pound's year-to-date gains have been solely driven by expectations that the UK's super-fast vaccine rollout will bring about an earlier reopening than other countries. But the UK government is taking a gamble by lifting virus restrictions completely, not even maintaining mandatory mask-wearing guidelines. So there are some fears that the Delta variant, which has already caused UK daily infections to rise to the highest since January, could push up hospitalizations if it continues to spread at the current pace. So if the UK government then has to do a U-turn and reintroduce some rules or even lockdowns, that would probably mean the Bank of England won't be able to raise rates as early as currently being anticipated by the markets. So that would, of course, be hugely negative for sterling. And other currencies such as the euro and Canadian dollar are also at some risk. So Canada and Eurozone countries are unlikely to remove all virus restrictions anytime soon, like the UK. So they might not be as hugely impacted.
And finally, let's have a look at the United States. Let's look at the dollar as taper talk by the Fed has boosted the greenback in recent weeks. It also appears that high vaccinations across the country are offering immunity not only to citizens, but the dollar as well. What could pose a threat to the dollar strength we're seeing lately?
Right, so it is interesting that the US dollar has made such a strong comeback. And funnily enough, if we were to see the Delta variant becoming rampant everywhere, and then that was to lead to shutdowns in Europe and America, the dollar would probably benefit from safe haven demand because the dollar does behave as a safe haven during times of global turmoil. The only scenario where the greenback would be hit more than other major currencies is if somehow the Delta or any future variants for that matter had a notably worse impact on the US economy and on the US outlook than other countries. And so if other countries were seen to be weathering the storm much better than the US, then the dollar would not fare as well. For the time being, though, markets are sticking to the narrative that vaccines are paving the way for a full reopening of economies. And all the focus is pretty much on when the Fed will announce its taper decision.
Rafi, thank you very much for joining me today. And thank you for watching this special report here at XM.com.